broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody and welcome back to WilmsFront for this week's featured interview show on this Thursday, the 27th of March, 2025. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel, the WilmsFront Rumble channel, and my WilmsFront X account. The Australian federal election will be called tomorrow at last by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, set to be on Saturday, the 3rd of May. Most of the media focus and polling is on who will form government in the lower house, the House of Representatives, but Australia has a bicameral parliament, meaning that government legislation and its budget also needs to pass the upper house, the Senate. The federal Senate is elected via proportional representation. Each state has 12 senators, 6 are up for election. This half-Senate election, there will be 6 for a 6-year term. Proportional representation in the Senate means that a party only requires 14.3% of the vote, a quota, meaning that minor parties, usually with preferences, can be elected. In Victoria at the 2022 federal election, Ralph Babet of the United Australia Party was elected in such a manner on 4% of the primary vote. There are many parties vying for a Victorian Senate seat at this year's federal election. One of those is Family First, and I'm pleased to welcome to WilmsFront as my guest tonight, Family First's lead Senate candidate for Victoria, Bernie Finn. Great to catch up with you again.
Great to see you, Tim, and thank you for the invitation.
I didn't get a chance to catch up with you at the March for the Babies last year. I was working for somebody else, but I think this is the first time we're able to have an extended chat. Now, as I said in my introduction, we've still got to hear the words come out of Albo's mouth that the election is for Saturday, the 3rd of May.
And even when we do hear the words, will we believe it?
when the writs drop, that's when we'll definitely believe it. But if he's leaked to all of his mates in the mainstream media, then
we're pretty much guaranteed that that's going to be the case. Yeah.
So the phony election campaign, as I've been calling it, is over. It's the real thing is about to commence. You've already been all around Victoria. Are you finally excited that is actually the real thing will start tomorrow?
Well, I'm a little bit excited. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. We've been campaigning now for 18 months, as you say. I've been around Victoria, and we've got another sweep through the Western District lined up for next week. So I'll be campaigning right up until as the classics say, 6 o'clock election day. And that will be something that will fill my life until then.
Now, you're already an experienced parliamentarian at the state level. You were the member for Tullamarine under the Kennett Liberal government from 1992 to 1999. Then you were the Liberal member for the Western Metropolitan region in the upper house from 2006 to 2022. You're now 63 years old. So why have you decided to run again, this time for the federal parliament?
Well, mate, I've got to tell you, at the last election, I missed out by 210 votes out of over 500,000. And I thought to myself, well, that's it for me. I'm off to a beach in Queensland, sunny Queensland. I'm going to sit there and enjoy the rest of my life. And I was being jabbed from, I suspect, the bloke upstairs. And he kept saying and reminding me of my responsibilities to a whole range of people, mainly children and babies in particular. And in the end, I gave up didn't give up, but I gave in, and I rang Lyle Shelton and said, mate, would you like me to run for the Senate? And he said, I'll get back to you. And much to my surprise, he actually did. And he said, yes, we would love that. And since that time, I've been working very hard to get around to as many people as possible and to just tell people exactly what we stand for and why we need Family First in the federal Senate.
Well, Donald Trump has set the benchmark. I mean, he's 78 years old. and he is as fit, both physically and mentally. That's the most important one.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
the previous bloke before. So yeah, you're still very much in your prime in your 60s.
Well, I said on my 50th birthday, we had a 50th birthday party, and I said that night that my hero was Ronald Reagan, and he wasn't elected until he was 69. So I said I've still got 19 years to go before I hit my straps. And now I've only got 6 years to go before I hit my straps, but I'm going to make those 6 years count. I anticipate that I'd only get one term. Maybe somebody might prevail upon me to go for a second term, but at this point in time, I'm looking forward to getting to Canberra. Not looking forward to going to Canberra, I have to say, because I detest Canberra and I detest everything that goes with Canberra. But I really have to go to Canberra to do the things that need to be done in this country, because Australia is going down the drain, not just economically, because that can be revived, but culturally as well. And that was the big problem with the Liberal Party, is they refused to fight the culture wars. I'm not afraid. I will not back away from those culture wars, and I will go in boots and all on that from day one.
You gave it your best in the Liberal Party for 40 years, and
Mm.
you were a team player. They could call you controversial, outspoken, but they could never accuse you of not being a team player. But how they chose to repay you, well, Matty Guy, as
Yes,
you call them,
Matt Math. Yeah.
he decided to, well, arrange the expulsion from the Liberal Party room for you, basically for reaffirming your pro-life beliefs, which he would have
Well,
been well aware of.
repeating something that I'd said every day for the past 40 years. So I'm not sure exactly why he took exception when he did. Although I think it had something to do with the fact that there were a few there who had eyes on my seat and wanted me out of the way so that they could do that.
And it backfired on them because Moira Deeming, who you recruited to the Liberal Party, won the pre-selection, and they tried to do the same thing to her
They did.
this term.
They
And
did, and as you quite correctly point out, it blew up in their faces big time. And when I still cannot work out what was in John Pasuto's mind to think that he could go around saying those sorts of things about people that he did without ramifications, without consequences. I mean, he's a bloke who's been around for a while. He's been in Parliament before. He's a lawyer. You would think a lawyer would know the laws of libel. But obviously, it must have momentarily slipped his mind, I assume. But I'm hopeful that the Liberal Party might be back on the track. But again, they're not prepared to fight the fights that need to be fought, and that's their big downfall.
now tell us about Family First. This is the second incarnation of the party. In its first
It is.
incarnation in the Federal Senate, there was Steve Fielding from
Mhm.
Victoria and then
Yep.
Bob Day from South Australia.
That's right. Yes.
The interesting fact is the second incarnation was actually founded by two ex-South Australian Labor MPs.
Yes, that's right. Tom and Jack Snelling, Tom Kenyon, great blokes they are. We get on extremely well. What that means is that there are people, though there were perhaps people in the Labor Party that were quite conservative on a lot of things. I think they've probably been run out of the Labor Party, much the same as some in the Liberal Party have tried to run Conservatives out of their party. But I'm quite excited to be with Jack and Tom in battle, and absolutely thrilled to be working with Lyle Shelton. He is a gem of a man. And we are working to build something here that is going to last a very, very long time, and is going to provide support for families in a way that they've never had it before, and particularly to protect children from what is going on, not just in Australia but around the world. Of course, Australia is where we will have the greatest impact. But what I am absolutely committed to is fighting against the war on children that's underway in this country at the moment, and it starts before they're born. And goes right through until their teenage years, and that is, I think, despicable in every way. And we have lost probably an entire generation already, and I want to stop that from happening. And if I go to Canberra, that will be my number one priority, is to protect the kids. I think that every adult, every human adult has a responsibility. Number one responsibility is to protect the kids, and that's what I'll be doing in Canberra if I get there.
Now, Family First, its most recent electoral contest was the Victorian state by-election for the seat of Werribee. Now, you were, for many years, the sole non-Labor voice in the West.
Yes.
But the Labor Party at that by-election got an almighty scare. They almost lost the seat, though they had a huge crash in their primary vote, though it didn't go to the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
Well, some of it did. There was 4.3 that went to your party's candidate, Matthew Emerson.
Yes. A very good candidate too, I might say.
But then there was some which went to the far left, the Victorian Socialists and the Legalised Cannabis Party. So it wasn't an endorsement of the Liberal Party per se, which I suspect we might see at the federal election as well. So I'm not asking you to tell your secret campaigning formula, but why do you think the party did so well at that?
I've got to say to you, we did a minimum. We didn't spend a great deal of money. There were a small team that worked very, very hard, and Matt, as I say, was a great candidate and will be a great candidate in the federal election as well. He's running for the federal seat of Lawler, which is wonderful. But we just had in our focus what we needed to do, and we got a great result. We more than doubled what we'd had before. And that was something that absolutely thrilled us and gave us a great deal of encouragement. If we get the same sort of result in statewide that we got in Werribee, I'm looking at going to the Senate. So that's something that has encouraged us enormously, and I'm sort of hoping that that's a portent of things to come.
I mean, we're all glad to see the back of Tim Pallas. Or did you come up with the nickname of Uncle Fester?
Uncle Fester, yeah. Well, he is Uncle. You look at him. If that's not
I've always called him that on my show.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's missing is the light bulb in his mouth, and that is the truth of the matter.
He didn't really have any light bulb in his head.
No, he certainly didn't. But there's nothing above his head. I can tell you that now. I mean, he was a treasurer that was put there probably under threat of God knows what, to tell you the truth. But he was put there to do a job that he just wasn't capable of doing. And as a result of that, Victoria now is stuffed. We have got a debt that my grandkids, probably my great grandkids, will still be paying off. And when you count the number of Victorians and the number of offspring they will have, and offspring they'll have, and offspring they'll have, that's a lot of people who are going to be paying off their debt for a very, very long time to come. In fact, I think, Tim, you'd have to say, if Albanese loses this election, he will lose it in Victoria, and it will be as a result of what Andrews and Jacinta Andrews has done. Because some of you may remember what happened in 1990 when Andrew Peacock nearly became Prime Minister because of what John Cain had done to Victoria. And we may well see a repeat performance. It might even go a little bit further this time, because I think the contempt and the loathing for the Jacinta Andrews government is just overwhelming amongst the majority of Victorians.
Well, they've shown contempt for their safe seats, or what they thought were safe seats. So when it comes to the state infrastructure spend, I live in the southeast, the city of Frankston. So I'm in a marginal seat surrounded by lots of other marginal seats. So that's where all of the infrastructure money is thrown. That's why Jacinta Andrews decided to build the suburban rail loop east first, though she and Albo decided after Werribee that to resurrect the airport rail link and the Western rail plan. So there's going to
Well,
be.
mate, I let me tell you, Tim, I was down in not in Werribee, in Frankston this week. I spoke to a lot of people in Frankston and surrounds, and that seat of Dunkley is not a shoe-in, not by a stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of anger down there about what the state government has done, and a lot of anger about what Albanese's done. I mean, they regard him as an incompetent and a foolish man, and that's not a great winning formula for any election.
Well, with his budget, he's trying to buy as many votes as he can and sandbag as many seats down here as he can.
Yeah. That's what he's up to. That's what they always do. I mean, when things get desperate, they try and buy the election, and that's what they're trying to do. I don't think 70 cents a day, though, in 15 months, is going to do the trick. I feel, but it is. I believe, the Liberals' election to lose, and I think that if the Liberals do lose it, and I suspect they might, then that'll be the end for the Liberal Party. That'll be all over. And I think we'll have to move on to another Conservative Party. And I think we're already, I've already had informal discussions with other people about what we might do in the situation where the Liberal Party actually falls over. Watch this space. But I am absolutely fearful, totally fearful of what might happen if Labor and the Greens are in government together. I think that would be the end of Australia as well. We would never ever recover from Adam Bant really pulling the strings in the Albanese government.
He's just the way he speaks. He always speaks in this passive aggressive soy tone.
Well, even when I was in the Liberal Party, I always referred to Labor as our opponents, but to the Greens as our enemies. And they are the enemies, not just of the Liberal Party, not just of Family First. They are the enemies of Australia. And they are out to destroy this country as we know it and as we've always known it, and to rebuild it in their own image. And all I can say is, God help us all if they succeed.
Because I'm not. I think the last time you ran in a federal election was over 40 years ago.
Yeah, and it was 1980. 1980 it was a very big month. I ran for the seat of Corangamite, and Richmond won the premiership. So it was a very, very big month.
Do you have faith in the Australian Electoral Commission? Because, well, the Victorian Electoral Commission, well, you were there. You were scrutinising on the night. It was described in the media as a dog's breakfast. They all buggered off for dinner for an hour. Yeah. Apparently, democracy can wait.
Democracy can wait always. Well, look, I have very little faith in the VEC, and it goes back to the last election when, as I say, I lost by 210 votes. Out of over 500,000. Now, in the federal system and the AEC, that would be an automatic recount. The VEC denied me a recount. I mean, it was just extraordinary, and some of the things that went on. The chairman of the VEC, or the chief honcho of the VEC, came out and attacked Matthew Guy while people were actually voting at pre-poll. That's not something that I think can be tolerated. Now, I have no regard at all for Matthew Guy. I think he's a total dill. But for any any official from the Electoral Commission to come out and attack the leader of the opposition in the way that he did, basically describing him as a crook, I thought was appalling. And the problem in Victoria is that every agency, every department of the Victorian government has been corrupted by the executive. By the Labor Party, and the VEC unfortunately is no different to that, and we have that problem here in Victoria, and we'll probably see that come out and to the fore at the 2026 state election. I have a little bit more faith in the AEC. I don't believe that they are corrupt, but I hope that they're a bit more efficient than their state counterparts, and I hope that they will actually get on with the job before they decide to pack it in for a week. I think, to tell you the truth, Tim, I think what we need to do is to do away with election day. We now have 2 weeks before election day where everybody can vote. That gives people, 12 clear days where they can vote. Now, there's no, and they have, after hours voting in the whole box and dice. There's absolutely no reason why we can't have that. We'll scrap election day at 8 o'clock on what would normally be election day. We should open the ballot boxes, start counting the votes, and we will know the result by lunchtime or shortly thereafter. And we will, have some certainty as to what's going on instead of letting it linger, for the best part of a week, as quite often happens. I think that's the way to go myself.
My view is the opposite, that we should drastically reduce the early voting window so that election day goes back to being election day. But the VC...
I think I've got to say, man, I think unfortunately that bird has flown. I think the VEC, the AEC, the various electoral commissions around the states, they've made it clear that people can vote for any reason, and once you give people something like that, it's impossible to take it back.
The VEC, they managed to bugger up the election day as well. In the seat of Bass and Pakenham, they actually ran out of ballots in some booths, and they were just won by the Labor Party. And how does that happen?
Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know how it can happen. I mean, these people are professionals, allegedly. They are supposed to know what they're doing. That it's their responsibility to make sure that the election is conducted in a fair and efficient manner. And I'm not sure whether they've actually passed the mark on either of those judgments. I think it's a bit of a worry, actually. If you cannot have confidence in the electoral commissions to run the elections fairly, and with confidence and with judgment, well, then I think we've got a problem.
And we saw with the recent West Australian state election, the Electoral Commission outsourced their personnel to a Singaporean.
Yeah.
And they weren't trained properly.
Yeah. Well, as I say, the electoral commissions around this country, and we spend a lot of money on them, a lot of taxpayers' money goes into it. They have a responsibility to act fairly and efficiently. And if they don't do either, well, then we have to hold somebody responsible. I think the chief honcho of the West Australian Electoral Commission should have been sacked over that. And I think that we really need to look at having greater KPIs for these people.
I was amazed in the 2024 US presidential election. There was 5 million votes that vanished between 2020 and 2024.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Yes. So did they all die of COVID, those 5 million?
Well, I just wonder if indeed they ever existed. I just wonder if those hundreds of thousands of votes that appeared at 4 o'clock in the morning weren't the product of the Democrats and their ability to rig an election. Because I still believe that there were some things done in that 2020 election that were as dodgy as all get out, and I think that Donald Trump was fully entitled to feel that he had been robbed by a very, very dodgy, a very, very corrupt and crooked Democrat Party that will do and say anything to win an election.
The local government elections here in Victoria are all done by mail-in ballots, and there has been cases of fraud with those. That leads into a viewer question from Jeff Bartlett. Do you think Bev MacArthur will be able to rid us of the Victorian Local Government Act?
Well, I think if anybody can do it, Bev can. I have to say that. I mean, Bev is a fighter. And Bev will take it down if she possibly can. If it can be done, as I say, Bev will do it, and I hope she does.
You were the only two Liberals in the upper house to vote against gender self-ID when it passed. All the other Liberal MLCs voted for it.
Well, we also voted against. So it's the only time I ever crossed the floor on these issues was the conversion therapy legislation. Which I think was an appalling piece of legislation, a disgraceful piece of legislation, and a piece of legislation that went against everything that the Liberal Party has ever stood for. It went against freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. It interfered with the rights of parents to supervise their children. It went against the rights of ministers or priests to counsel their flock. It was a disgraceful and despicable piece of legislation. There was no way on God's earth I was ever going to vote for it, but yet the Liberals all dutifully, well, not all, because Bev and I didn't, but the Liberals all dutifully lined up to vote with the Socialist left on that. So it gives me a feeling that the Liberals are not in this for too much longer. If they're going to do that to those people who've elected them, then I don't think the Liberal Party is going to last for a real lot longer.
Well, Bev is one of the good ones who's still in the party, along with Moira. I was covering the Let Women Speak last year when Bev was hit with an egg by one of those Antifa thugs, and nearly one of the elderly ladies nearly slipped over, which it was absolutely shocking. I mean, it's long been there's two things to take out of that. Victoria, the Antifa mob, the thugs, they've been allowed free reign.
Yes, they have. They have. I have been assaulted by these people over the years a number of times, and they are absolute disgrace. On the last occasion I went to the police, there were police there. It was
This was 2013 March for the Babies, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, the March for the Babies. That's another thing. They always show up there. But this was at a rally. I was speaking in front of it for Falun Gong, for Falun Dafa, and for that freedom. And they saw me there, and they actually attacked me in the street, and the police were looking the other way at the time. So you've got to wonder. I mean, Victoria Police really needs to have a good hard look at itself. As soon as the Labor Party gets in, there are two roles in government that they take. One is the governor's role or the governor general's role, and the other one is chief commissioner of police. And unfortunately, police command in Victoria has been controlled by the government, by the Labor Party, in fact, for far too long. And we saw that during the COVID period when we had the police out shooting rubber bullets at unarmed innocent people.
Well, apparently that didn't happen, according to Raph Epstein, who were with the other day.
Well, Raph perhaps should concern himself more with his audience, given the ratings that came out since that time. I knew for a fact that not too many people were listening on Tuesday, and I was absolutely right. But what happened with the police back then, is just a disgrace. It's shameful. We should never allow that to happen again. And that was an order, I am told, that came directly from the Premier of the day.
Well, I hope that those documents do come out. I know that there's a pending, freedom of information request that has been granted, that was lodged by David Davies, but the history of this state is that you get the documents, but they're all blacked out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I have seen documents where 25 pages have been provided, but 24 and a half of them have been blacked out. So it's not unusual for the government to do that. They're not big on freedom, and they're not big on information. So freedom of information, forget it. Not going to happen.
I mean, the Epstein files that have been released and redacted were probably redacted less than the Andrews
absolutely.
government.
Without doubt. I mean, some of the documents that I've seen released and redacted, 98% of it have been redacted. It's why would you even bother releasing it?
It's such a waste of ink.
Why would you bother? Just ridiculous.
Now, we learnt during the COVID lockdowns that the state governments, they have a lot of authority. The Constitution, Australia's Constitution, is what it does. What it does have very clear is what powers are the federal government, what powers belong to the state government. So my next question to you is, what do you believe that you can impact from Canberra? Because abortion, euthanasia, they're state laws. Peter Dutton claims that he can't do anything about banning puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones at the federal level. So he said, oh, I don't have a position on that because
Well, I think
I can't do it.
that is a very, very weak position that Peter's taken, and that, you know, it's that sort of attitude and that sort of response that will lose him the election. People are looking for strength. Has he not seen what happened in the United States, where a tough guy got up and said, "This is what I'm going to do," and millions and millions and millions and millions of people voted for him. You know, being a wimp doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And if I'm in the Senate, I tell you what, I am going to go to town, and they will know that I'm there. There are a whole range of issues, and you mentioned the abortion issue. The fact of the matter is that in every state and territory in this nation, we have legalised abortion until birth. Legalised abortion until birth. Could you imagine that a few years ago? And that's something that it makes it a national issue. You know, it is a national shame, a national disgrace, and it makes it a national issue. And that's one of the reasons, one of the reasons that I'm going to Canberra to expose and to fight for those babies.
Well, there's even a push now from the Greens to federally fund abortions at public hospitals. And
Well, they're largely funded through Medicare anyway, so I'm not sure what the Greens are getting excited about there. But you know what we're seeing in New South Wales at the moment, we've got a bill before the New South Wales Parliament, which will force Catholic hospitals and religious hospitals into committing abortions in those hospitals. And you know, we saw what happened in Canberra, where a Catholic hospital refused to commit abortions, and they just took it over. You know, the
I
Labor
can't
Greens.
believe that they were able to get away with that.
Well, they did. They got away with it, and the church. None of the churches actually arced up too much at all, and they just walked in and took it over and ripped down the cross from the top, and then proceeded with their grisly work. So you know what? This country's future is at risk at the moment. I didn't think we would ever see an election as important as 1975. But this one is, because this election will decide the future of Australia. Not just culturally, but economically and in every other way. You know, our energy resources are on the line. Our future is on the line. If this election goes the wrong way, our country could disappear down the tubes very, very quickly.
Well, we could be like the new Argentina. Well, they're being made great again now
Yeah,
by
they are.
Javier
Yeah,
Milei, but
if we
last
if we could
century
get
they
him,
lost it all.
maybe if we could get him out here and give us a hand, that'd be helpful. But you know, I am very concerned that, you know, if Labor and the Greens get control of the Parliament, that is going to be disastrous for Australia. But I'm not all that thrilled at the prospect of Peter Dutton and the Liberals getting it, because you know, Dutton's not prepared to take a stand on any of these things like puberty blockers, because he knows that the left of his own party will knife him. And you know, there are almost as many lefties in the Liberal Party now as there are in the Labor Party. When they threw me out, I felt a sense of great relief. I've got to tell you, because I had felt that, you know, for 12, 18 months beforehand, that I was living in some sort of fantasy that, you know, here was a Conservative Party full of lefties doing extraordinary things. And I used to loathe going in there for fear of what they might try and make me or force me to do.
John Ruddick, he's an ex-Liberal Party member, now a Libertarian MLC in New South Wales. He has said that what he wants to do with the Libertarians is to bring the Liberal Party, back to its original vision and philosophy, or what it says on its website, which is still great, but they don't do that. That's certainly something that Family First would see as part of its strategy, getting
Oh,
people.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have made it clear, even as late as this week, that we've made it clear that anybody who votes for that abortion legislation in New South Wales, that legislation is being put up that I spoke of a moment ago from the Greens. Any Liberal who votes for that, we will stand against at the next election, and we will preference against them. We are sick to death of the Liberal Party getting away with this. They are supposed to be a Conservative party. Let's get them back to being a Conservative party. If they don't want to be a Conservative party, then they can't expect our support, and they won't get it. But I'm hopeful that common sense might prevail. There's not a lot of common sense in Canberra, I know, but I'm hopeful. I'm an optimist by nature, and I'm very hopeful that that will common sense will prevail at some stage in the hallowed halls of Parliament House.
Well, in Queensland, one of David Crisafulli, I believe that I came up with that before you.
No, I think I did, but anyway, that's all right.
But one of his first acts as Premier was to gag the Parliament,
Yep.
even debating the state's abortion up until birth laws. And all the LNP MPs who said who went to the election, well, have said that they're pro-life, attended rallies, including Amanda Stoker, who succeeded one of your friends, Mark Robinson.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
She voted for it.
I can't tell you how disappointed I was with Amanda, with a number of people that I knew and had previously respected in the Queensland Parliament. I just couldn't believe that they had done that, and I still have difficulty believing that they've done it. But they have to live with themselves. I certainly wouldn't have done it if I'd been there. I would have crossed the floor, and if they'd expelled me, well, so be it. But I certainly would never, ever in 100 years allowed myself to support the legislation that Crisafulli pushed through on that particular occasion.
Will Family First be contesting all? We're back down to 150 lower house seats. Is it the party's intention to run in all seats?
We are going to be running in as many seats as we possibly can in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. I'm not sure exactly what's happening in WA, and I don't think we've got much going on in Tasmania. But certainly in South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland, we're running a very strong Senate campaign. So we will be running as many candidates as we possibly can to support the Senate campaign.
And on your how to vote cards, will you be recommending preferences?
Well, we will. Yes, we will be giving out how to vote cards, and we will be suggesting, and it is only a suggestion. Remember, how to vote cards are only a suggestion. People say to me all the time, "Who are you giving your preferences to?" To which I respond, "Who are you giving your preferences to? Because you're the one who is actually filling in the ballot paper." Don't ever forget that. Don't let anybody tell you what you should be doing, because it is ultimately up to the individual voter as to how their preferences go. But we will, as a matter of course, we will be putting the Greens last. We will be putting the Teals second last. We will be putting the Labor Party third last, and we'll work it out after that. But that's a pretty tight rule that we will have, where we will most assuredly have the Greens last. They are a clear and present danger to the future of our nation, and we want as many of them defeated as we possibly can.
There's been a lot of talks and meetings about a minor party alliance. I know that Family First did attend it was termed a Freedom Summit late in February, but ultimately decided not to be part of the Australia First alliance. There is what's termed a Freedom Coalition of the Libertarians, People First, and the Heart Party running in New South Wales. So in your preference recommendations, are you going to be recommending, because the Australian Electoral Commission says its instructions are vote 1 to 6 above the line?
Well, we will be discussing, I'm sure we've already had discussions with the other minor parties, and I would assume that there will be a degree of cooperation there. How much of a degree of cooperation, I'm not at all sure. But for example, in the the Liberal Party, number 3 Liberal candidate for Victoria, is a very good candidate. I mean, we're not we're not, as a general rule, we're not going for parties. We're going for individual candidates. And if if the Liberal Party's got a very good candidate, as it did in Werribee, and we had no problem preferencing Steve Murphy in Werribee, and we'd have no possibly have no problem preferencing Kyle Hoppert in the Senate, because he is very good. But yet you've got Jane Hume, number 2, who voted to allow babies to be killed after they're born. So that is something that will depend very, very largely on how individual candidates feel and what they do.
Jane Hume also voted against a federal Senate inquiry into puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in children, and she took about 3 or 4 minutes to answer how many genders there are. She eventually got there, but it was painful.
Yeah, well, you've got to wonder. I mean, I get on very well with Jane. I like Jane as a person, but somebody with those sorts of attitudes, you've got to be very concerned about.
I'll ask you the question. This is a Dorothy Dix gimme. How many genders are there?
Oh, there's only 2, clearly, a male and female. That's it.
Yep, that only took a couple of seconds.
You don't have to be Einstein to work that out. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work out that there's only two genders. That's it.
And that's how you answer that question.
Yeah,
it doesn't take much.
I even know what a woman is.
What is it?
Well, it's a female adult female. That's what a woman is. Yeah. Isn't it extraordinary? I mean, it's just amazing that a question like that these days is actually controversial. I mean, what is going on in this country? It's just, these people are nuts.
Yeah, I remember there was Alex Antic asking the former Secretary of the Department of Health, Professor Brendan Murphy, who used to be the Chief Medical Officer.
I remember him, yes.
Yeah, and he wanted to take the question on notice because it was a very contested area. And I noticed that the current Chief Medical Officer, Paul Kelly, quickly put his mask back on as a signal. I ain't touching that one.
Yeah, was he he has to go home and ask his mum or something? What was going on there?
And
very odd.
And the answer on notice that they provided, there was just waffle and more waffle. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, they're good at waffling. If anybody can waffle, it'll be Canberra bureaucrats, or probably any bureaucrat really, but Canberra specialises in that. And I have to say to you that if I had my way, the national capital would not be in Canberra. We would remove it from Canberra. We'd put it in Parramatta, or we might put it in Werribee, or somewhere like that where real people live. Perhaps in Alice Springs. That might be good, and that might give the bureaucrats and the politicians a far greater chance of understanding what ordinary people go through in their daily lives. Because at the moment, most of them haven't got a clue. You've got the bureaucrats up there. You've got 3 generations of bureaucrats that have probably never met a real person in their lives. And that's something that concerns me, and I'd really love to do something about that. And it's certainly something that I will address as a senator, if indeed I am one.
Well, one of the federal pieces of legislation that certainly should be looked at, to say the least, is the Sex Discrimination Act, which actually doesn't define sex. I mean, I know that Sal Grover is appealing the Tickle versus Giggle judgment, but it's the law that should be changed.
Yes, of course it is, and the whole range of laws that should be changed. What we have seen over recent years is some of the laws are just vomit-inducing. They really are, and we have to take to those with a knife. We have to take to those not with a red pen and a ruler, but with a knife, and really cut into them, destroy them, and start again. It's just not good enough. For Australia, we are a free and a happy nation, allegedly, but we cannot have our people being attacked in this way.
And there's also the Racial Discrimination Act 18C.
Well, that's got to go. The 18C has got to go.
Hanson, she was taken to court by Maureen Faruqi.
Yeah, well, there's, as I say, we could be here from now until election day, talking about the legislation that needs to be scrapped. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a list and just go through them one by one until we've knocked them all off. And if by some chance the Family First has the balance of power in the Senate, then that's exactly what we might do.
And we haven't even got onto the agencies that should be abolished. So
Look,
the
we
e-safety
could.
commissioner.
Yeah, well, look, Tim, I got to say, we could very easily do without three-quarters of the federal government. Very easily do without it. We could wipe it out tomorrow, and we'd all be better off for having done that. Most of those things that could be done away with, such as Aboriginal affairs, and of course the ABC, that has to go. Not that anybody watches or listens
Not
to it
just
anyway.
cut,
But
completely.
it still costs us $1.5 billion a year, but nobody watches it or listens to it. It's just there to provide employment for people who couldn't get a job anywhere else. It is a sheltered workshop for people who can't get a job in the real world. And that's something that has to go. But you've got Aboriginal affairs, which should be handled by the states. You've got health, which should be handled by the states. You've got education, which should be handled by the states. The Federal Department of Health, the Federal Department of Education. Health doesn't provide a single doctor or a single nurse. Education doesn't employ a single teacher. What the hell are they doing there? Get rid of them. Get rid of them. And let's get into the federal bureaucracy. And people say, well, why do we have this huge deficit? And it's over $1 trillion now. Why do we have this huge deficit? And the simple fact of the matter is we are spending too much money, way too much money, and we've got to cut back. And the useless bureaucracy that we have in Canberra is a damn good place to start.
What about the National Disability Insurance Scheme? I know you have an autistic child, so
Yes, I do.
you know the importance of caring for those with disabilities, because
Yep.
at the current rate, that's going to outcompete, outspend defence.
Yeah, well, look, I'm very concerned about the NDIS. I have been for a while. In fact, I almost rang Bill Shorten last year and said, "Mate, do you want somebody who actually knows what they're doing to give you a hand?" Then I thought, well, he might think that I'm an opponent, but I would have been genuine in doing that, because I think I want to save the NDIS, and I don't think the way it's going at the moment, it can be saved. I think it's a monster that's threatening to eat us all. But I know, and I've experienced firsthand just how good it can be to families with disability. And I don't refer to the person or the child with disability. I refer to the families with disability, because every member of the family is affected by that. And we. My family has benefited from the NDIS, and I won't say a word against it, except to say there are a whole heap of abuses going on. And I would personally, if I had my way, I would find those people who are abusing the NDIS, and I would lock them up for a very, very long time, because that is to take advantage of people with disability in the way that they are, is an act of just craven evil. It's just an appalling act. And as I say, I would lock them up. And I hope whoever wins the election will take the measures necessary to tighten the NDIS up, to provide the services long term that we need, but without the abuse that we've seen to date.
I'm not sure if you saw. I mean, this was one good program by the ABC. It's Four Corners about.
When was this?
Four Corners.
A good program on. Excuse me. Did you say there was a good program on the ABC? Good heavens.
Well, sometimes there is. It was about the abuse in the childcare sector, which it just breaks your heart to see that.
Yes, it is. Oh, it is. And I have been on committees that have examined this over the years, parliamentary committees that have examined this over the years, and it does break your heart, particularly from my perspective, when I've got a a personal involvement and a personal interest, it is devastating to see what's going on. And those people who are responsible for that, they should go into the same cell with the people who are abusing the NDIS. And I would have no mercy. No mercy on them for what they are doing is just absolutely despicable in every way.
There are a lot of parents who believe that they have no option but to send their children to childcare because of the way that we have governments that are obsessed with female workforce participation. There's a gender equality agency where it's okay and it should be supported if a mother wants to stay and raise the children. I mean, that's how I was very grateful that that's the way that I was raised. But the current tax system, it doesn't incentivize or accommodate that.
Yeah, well, it's got to. It should. I mean, this is family first policy. We need to provide an opportunity for mums or dads, for that matter, if they want to. But mums, I presume, would be predominantly the ones that would want to do this. And we should say there are a huge number of women who want to stay home and they do want to look after their kids. This nonsense that they say, oh, women are not fulfilled unless they're in the workplace. Well, the most effective and the most important workplace of all is at home. Doing what they want to do, and which is look after their own kids. What we have in this country at the moment is, a week or so, maybe 2 weeks after the baby's born, the baby is handed over to the childcare centre, and the baby is actually raised by the childcare workers. The babies and the children need to be raised by their mum and dad, not by some third party, not by some government, because there are a lot of people in government, of course, who think that they know far better about how to raise our kids than we do. And they don't hold back in telling us what we should and what we shouldn't do. But what we really need to do is to change the tax system, and we will be moving to do this in the Parliament if we're there. We will be moving to change the tax system to allow women the choice. And hey, there's a word, choice. We'll give women choice if they want to kill their babies, but not if they want to stay home and look after them. What we need to do is to give women real choice in this and allow them to stay home to look after their kids if that's what they want to do. I'm not forcing anything on anybody. That's just if that's what they want to do, they should be in a position to do that, and the government should allow them to do that.
And also another reason why both parents feel that they have to work is because of the cost of housing. You only just need to look at the graph of what the price of housing is compare it to wages from the 1950s to today. I mean, it used to be very achievable only about 30 years ago for a mum, dad, and children to afford at least a 3-bedroom home with white picket fence.
Yep, no, that's right, and I think it's very important. I mean, I look at my daughters, my 3 daughters, and they are almost in despair of ever being in a position where they'll be able to buy their own home, whether they'll be able to have children, and to have this sense of doom facing our children is just appalling. I think in a country as rich as Australia, there are ways that we can do this, and particularly in a country as large as Australia, where we have such vast spaces where homes can be built, and we need to release more land. We need to provide that so that people can have cheaper housing. We don't need governments building it. We just need to provide some assistance for families who are wanting to own their own home. I think owning your own home is almost a right. No, not almost. It is a right that we all should expect to have. And I think we, as a government, we should provide some assistance, but not a handout as such, but just some assistance where that's possible, and bring back the Australian dream instead of it being a nightmare.
Well, you mentioned the key word there, supply, but there's also demand, and we've had since the end of the COVID lockdowns, the international borders didn't just open, there were people flooding in, albeit they were invited. And there's obviously two facets for that. The fact that the mass immigration, it drives up the cost of a lot of things, and
It does.
also the challenges with social cohesion as well, which we've seen sadly over the past 18 months. So what's Family First's immigration policy?
Well, what we are talking about is slashing immigration, as we know. I mean, there are far too many people coming into this country at the moment, but the social cohesion issue is a very big one. You know, we are having thousands of people come from Gaza. Now, those people, you would suspect, are strongly anti-Jewish. They are strongly anti-Israel, and they are strongly prone to violence. Because that's the way they've been brought up. That's the way it is. I mean, I have been to Israel. I've been to the Palestinian Authority area. I have seen what kids are taught in these schools, and they are taught to hate. Now, they are taught to hate from a very early age, and they become adults, and they are still hating. And I don't want people here who have that attitude. And Family First has a very firm policy on this. We want to suspend all Muslim immigration to Australia until such time as we can get this issue solved. It's not that we have anything against Muslims, it's just that they could be a threat to the future of the nation and to people in the nation. And you know, when I see synagogues being burned and Jews being attacked in the street, that's not something that we as a civilized nation can tolerate. We've got to crack down on this quick smart, and we've got to take some drastic action to stop it from happening.
Would you abolish multiculturalism?
Yes, I think I would. Multiculturalism has failed. You know, it really has. I mean, multiculturalism was sold to us on the basis that it was about some really nice food and some dances. But it's not. It's not about really fine food and dances. Well, that's a part of it. But you've also got attitudes that leave a fair bit to be desired, and we're seeing seeing the result of that now across the nation, and that distresses me enormously. I mean, multiculturalism, let's face facts, was invented by governments to buy votes at election time. And I have seen this from both sides. They go around to the various multicultural communities,
Peter
as they call
Dutton's
them.
been doing this as
Yeah,
well.
the various ethnic communities. They go around, check in hand, and say, "How much do you want?" And they're actually buying votes. That's what it's all about. And I've seen the Liberals do it. I've seen Labor have turned into a masterclass. You know, they've worked that out a long time ago. So you know, multiculturalism doesn't work. You know, multi-race, yeah, got no problem with that. Multi religion, got no problem with that. But multiculturalism. You know, when you're encouraging people to bring their culture, which in many instances is leaves a fair bit to be desired, as I say, you're inviting them to bring their culture to Australia and to allow that culture to bloom. Really, we don't need that. We don't want that. We need to protect our own people.
And I take it as a given you'd only stand in front of one flag.
Yeah, that was without doubt. Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that I've been very strong about for a very long time. I don't even know why we fly the Torres Strait Islander flag. I've got some understanding of why we might fly the Aboriginal flag, but I'm not sure what it is. But I'm not even sure what the bloke with his head down between his legs. That's very strange. And I don't know unless it's some sort of tribute to the Rioli family. I don't imagine that there's a real reason why that's happening at all. You know, I was up in Brisbane last year, and fair dinkum, you wouldn't believe this. There were 14 flagpoles with 14 different flags, and I thought to myself, somebody's been working hard just to get them up there and down again. So I suppose it could be an employment creation scheme. I don't know, but to have that many flagpoles and that many flags is just getting really stupid.
Well, if they're all Australian flags, I
Well, if
wouldn't
they're all Australian
object.
flags, I wouldn't have an issue. I would, but they weren't. They weren't. And you know, I saw. I was in Frankston, as I say, the other day, and outside one official looking building. I don't know what it was. I was going past at the time. There was the Aboriginal flag, the Torres Strait Islander flag, and the gay flag, the rainbow flag, and that was it. No Australian flag, no Victorian flag, just those three. And I thought to myself, what on God's earth has happened to our country?
And our national anthem, it talks about golden soil, and that's not just a line. We literally do have golden soil with all of the resources that
Yep.
are there, yet we're not allowed to touch them now. I mean, we should have the cheapest and most reliable energy in the world.
Yes, absolutely we should. Absolutely we should. You know, we have got coal to last forever. We have got gas to last forever. We have got uranium to last forever. And we have this extraordinary situation at the moment. Now, despite the fact that Australia produces just 1% of the world's emissions, we are not allowed to burn the coal that we have in our ground to keep us warm, to keep the light on in our own homes. We can't do that. But we can sell it to China. We can't do that, I should say, because that's going to destroy the world. If we burn our coal, if we keep our homes warm or cool, that's going to destroy the world. However, we can sell it to China, and they can burn it, and they can keep their homes warm. They can keep their homes cool in summer. They can keep their lights on, but that has no impact on the environment at all. If anybody can explain that to me, please do, because I don't know. It makes no logic to me. It makes no sense at all. It's just a just amazing stuff that only people in Canberra could come up with. It's just nonsense. I mean, we have ample coal to last us for hundreds of more years. We have ample gas that we haven't even found yet, and we're not even allowed to look for it in many instances. But you know, we have got these natural resources. We have, as I said before, over $1 trillion deficit, and that is just horrendous. And people are saying, well, you know, how do we stop spending? Well, how about cutting out the hundreds of billions of dollars that we're spending on renewables? How about cutting out the hundreds of billions of dollars that Peter Dutton's talking about spending on nuclear energy? And we just use the coal that God has given us, and it's clean. It's clean coal. It's clean coal. It's not the dirty coal that many countries have overseas, and the gas that we have. You know, good, clean, natural gas that we. You know, remember on the television ads when I was a kid, you were a kid. That's what they used to sell it as: good, clean, natural gas. It's not apparently it's not good and clean anymore. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but they are what we should be using. Let's face facts. If we are fair income about having a future for this nation, coal and gas are very much a part of that. And in fact, they will drive our future and our prosperity forevermore. So you know, let's stop with the semantics. Let's stop with the nonsense of renewables and climate change and global warming and all that crap. Let's put that to one side and let's just get fair income about what is best for Australia. And what we, you know, let's hope that we will have after the election, we will have a leader who will put Australia first. Let's hope that we do that. Because if we don't, you know, we're just going to continue to suffer. You know, when I hear about families sitting around the kitchen table wondering whether they will feed their kids or pay their electricity bill, and I've just got my electricity bill this week, and I tell you what, I'm going to go without tucker for a while. It is horrendous. It's appalling. It should not be happening in Australia, and this is a man-made situation. This is being done by Albanese, by Chris Bowen, and by the lunatic left who are intent on destroying the nation as we know it. And it's as simple as that. We've got to do something about it.
And cheap, abundant energy that
Yep.
would flow on to cheaper groceries,
Of
cheaper
course.
housing, cheaper
Of course.
everything.
Cheaper everything. Because if you put electricity prices up, you put the price of everything up. and that's what's been happening for the last 3 years in Australia. And Albanese and Bowen and all that crowd up there, they are directly responsible for that. They are culpable for the suffering of millions of Australians, and now's the time to hold them responsible for that.
Well, it's definitely the time with election time. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Bernie. I suspect you might be doing after this interview what I'll be doing, watching Peter Dutton's budget reply and catching a bit of Essendon, Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I'll certainly be watching Essendon and Port Adelaide. I can't believe how badly the Bombers are going at the moment. As you know, I'm a fanatical Tiger, and I wasn't expecting much of this year. Already we've had more than I expected, so I'm pleased about that. But I'm hoping I've picked Port Adelaide, but I'm hoping that Essendon might show their fans, give them some reason for hope anyway.
Well, it's quarter time. I'll give a live score update. So the Bombers are 2-5-17, Port Adelaide 3-5-23. So it's competitive.
Well, it's nice and close anyway. Yeah.
Well, you keep the faith with the Tigers, both when they're they're in their rebuilding phase. You still go to the games, and also
absolutely.
Despite all the wokeness.
Yeah, well, I went to the first. Yeah, the wokeness. Don't get me started on that. But I went to the first game expecting us to get flogged, and was absolutely thrilled when we beat them. It was just absolutely marvelous. But I stick with the Tigers, and I sat there through 37 years of misery. I went every week, and if ever I was going to give up, it would have been then. I'm certainly not going to give up now, because I think we're closer to a premiership now than we ever were during those 37 years. So I'm hopeful the Tigers will be shining, and the sun will shine on the Tigers again very soon.
You've always kept the faith.
I have,
Tigers, and also
not just for the Tigers, but in a whole range of areas.
Yeah, with the Catholic Church as well. Despite
the Catholic Church has annoyed me enormously over the years, no question about that. But it is still the one true faith.
That's about the only thing you have in common with Elbow, that you're both raised in the Catholic Church and with a football team.
Yeah, well, that's right. Exactly right. Yeah, I couldn't imagine that we would what else we would have in common.
Well, when I see you at this year's March for the Babies, I also hope that the Lions will be back-to-back premiers.
You're one of those, eh? Fair enough. Well, look, I was really pleased that the Lions won last year. Chris Fagan, I don't know, there's something about Chris Fagan that I like, and I was really thrilled to see him in tears of joy after the siren, because I really like him. I saw him at the carousel at the airport one day, and I was standing just near him, and I said, I said to him, if Richmond can't win it this year, I hope you blokes can. And that was a few years ago, so I'm glad that finally happened eventually.
And this is all why the AFL media dragged him through the mud as a racist, along with Alistair Clarkson. Actually had to go on mental health leave. We could go on about, well, you think the Canberra Press Galleries woke the AFL media?
Well, the AFL house is full of lunatics. I mean, the game is a great game, but the people who run it are nuts. They are seriously gone, and I wish we could do something about that. But I am not going to be forced away from the team that I love and the game that I love by people's strange politics. They will go just as they came, and I will still be barracking for the Tigers.
Hear, hear. Well, all the best for the campaign, Bernie.
Good on you, Tim. Thanks for that.
And like I said, win or lose, I'll see you at the March for the Babies.
Look forward to it in October the 11th from memory.
Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Not a worry, mate. Have a good night.
All right, everybody, that's the end of WilmsFront for another week. And now I have invited other Victorian Senate candidates on, Jordan Diffloff from the Libertarians and Warren Pickering from One Nation. I haven't heard back from them, but there's an open invitation for them there. So we're now in federal election mode. So that means that, and it's pretty much all but confirmed that it will be Saturday, May the 3rd. So we'll be doing another Unshackled election night live stream from when the polls close at 6 p.m. We'll be back to Australian Eastern Standard Time. So we'll go from 5 time zones to back to 3 time zones. So that means the polls will close in WA at 8 o'clock. So we will get hopefully a result before midnight. So I definitely promise you that although sometimes Unshackled content can be sporadic, Unshackled Productions, it'll be full throttle for this federal election, because it's just such an important federal election. And of course, we'll still cover the Canadian general election, which will be on April 28th, the week before. I'll see you all again on Tim's News Explosion, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the WilmsFront channels. Make sure that you're subscribed. Click the bell to allow for notifications. Leave a comment below, share, a thumbs up, get the word out. And remember, I cannot do all these Unshackled productions without your support. So please consider either supporting us over on Substack. So you can take out a $5 monthly subscription, a $50 annual subscription, or founding member for $500. So that is where Substack, where our Unshackled production archive is, and also where I send out email alerts for upcoming Unshackled productions like WilmsFronts tonight. And also on the unshackled.net, that is still where I publish our articles. So you can also take out a membership there. So for bronze, $5 per month, $50 per year, silver, $10 per month, $100 per year, gold, $25 per month, $250 per year, or platinum, $50 per month, $500 per year. There'll be another report from Tiger Mountain with Richard Balsoncroft later this week, and also film some more reports with him for the federal election, and I'm sure that he'll take part in our Unshackled live election night live stream. And I should be back on Reality Check Radio in New Zealand this week. I'll let you know on Tim's News Explosion Monday. Of course, if you missed tonight's stream with Bernie, you can, of course, just simply watch the live replay. So thank you so much for your time tonight on this Thursday, the eve of the election being called, and see you all for our campaign 2025 coverage. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.